Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Welcome to the bonus show. The WHO, or the World Health Organization, not that band that I totally don't care about, have urged the world to use smart syringes by 2020. Smart syringes would be syringes that you can only use one time. And this, I guess, they consider to be a pretty big deal. By using the same syringe to give multiple injections, they have some numbers that are saying that there were many, many people infected with many nasty things because of that. So they estimated that in 2010, upwards of 1.7 million people were infected with hepatitis B, 315,000 with hepatitis C, and as many as, the comma's in a weird place here, but I'm guessing this is 338,000 with HIV as a result of using contaminated syringes. And that 16 billion injections administered each year, of the 16 billion injections administered each year, many are unnecessary and actually would require no syringes at all with oral alternatives. So they are hoping that people will start using some type of syringe that will only allow them to use it once.
And you know what's crazy? That this is really about the specifics of syringes, not about the concept of immunizations. But the anti-vaxxers are still trying to use this as saying, hey, see, look, even the WHO now is coming out and saying, oh, you got to be careful with this, you got to be careful with that. But we're talking about the delivery method here. We're not talking about the concept of the vaccination.
Of course. It's a completely different conversation. But I don't think it would be too hard to come up with this type of syringe. I mean, it might exist already. Just making an affordable version, it can't be that hard. There are probably any number of ways to do this. And they say that it won't be easy still to implement this worldwide by 2020. And the cost is something to consider. Normal syringes cost about 3 to 4 cents a piece. Now that seems low, but I guess maybe that is high when you consider volume. Does that sound low or high to you?
Well, I think the issue is that you can have part of the issue is that there are 8-cent vaccines or 8-cent syringes that don't have some of the problems of 4-cent syringes, but that would double the cost of all of the syringes, so that's not being done. And that when I see that, it is sad. I understand that we're talking about such a huge volume that at 4 cents or 8 cents, we're talking about a lot of money here. I completely understand that. But at the same time, is the potential loss of life worth 4 more cents to try to prevent? I would argue that it is.
Yep, we should probably come up with an answer to this, because we should obviously not be reusing these in any situation. Turkey has entered Syria. This is to save an artifact that, according to an old treaty, is on the grounds of Turkish territory, despite being in Syria. I'll get to the details of that. There were 38 soldiers guarding this artifact, and it's the remains of Suleiman Shah, the, quote, grandfather of the Ottoman Empire, saving it from ISIS forces, of course. So Turkey dispatched hundreds of soldiers, tanks, aircraft, and drones to this tomb in Syria. And there was a treaty, the Treaty of Ankara, signed between Turkey and France when Syria was governed by France, claimed that this shrine was sovereign Turkish territory. It's an 8,000 square meter enclave guarded by Turkish troops, 19 miles in from the Turkish border. So that's not really a short hike. That's a good distance. But I guess, when was that treaty thrown out the window? I don't know. Was it when France no longer governed Syria? Was it when ISIS took over? I don't know. But Suleiman Shah was the grandfather of Osman I, who was the founder of the Ottoman Empire. And this is where his remains are. So,
and just for clarity, Lewis, we want to make sure, when you said 19 miles from the Turkish border, that means into Syria, because I think you may have said that it's 19 miles into Turkey. It's 19 miles out of Turkey into Syria.
Right. Yeah. If I apologize if I did say that. It is sovereign Turkish territory in Syria, according to the Turks. And I guess that shrines, the veneration of shrines, is idolatry in the eyes of ISIS and forbidden. They are destroying mosques, tombs, and things like this all over Syria and Iraq.
Right.
Because idolatry is bad, according to ISIS. So the mission was a success. They rescued all of the troops. They secured the remains and brought them much closer to the Turkish border. I guess they destroyed the compound or the building or whatever it was so that ISIS couldn't take it over. And it was a success. But pretty interesting. I guess I've told the story about when I was in Turkey and I was in Istanbul and I saw these protests that were the largest protests I've ever seen. I think maybe I've never even seen protests as large on TV, honestly. Perhaps recently in Egypt or, some places like that. But there were thousands of people completely filling these streets, marching, chanting, and I had no idea what it was about. And I asked a waitress when I stopped to eat lunch, and they said, "Oh, there was a Turkish soldier, or one or two Turkish soldiers that died somewhere, and that's what this is about." And there was kind of obviously a language barrier, but I was thinking to myself, this is like culture shock to me. Like a couple soldiers die, and this is what's happening. Like we have soldiers dying every day, soldiers even killing themselves every day in our country, and there does not seem to be even any awareness of it. But anyway, this was a successful operation, and I guess that's the end of that.
You really have to reevaluate your life as an ISIS fighter when even France and Iran is thinking of getting involved, right? All these countries that normally are either on a different side than what you would anticipate or just not allies in any way are working with the same goal of defeating you. You really have to rethink what you're doing in that case.
I don't know what it would take to get them to rethink what they're doing. I don't think that it's ever the ideology. I think it's rarely the ideology that they have a conflict with. I think usually when ISIS fighters rethink this, they show up and perhaps enter into combat. There's a firefight, and they think to themselves, "I'm going to get shot. What am I doing here? I made a mistake." I can't think of any stories or individual instances that I've heard of recently where an ISIS fighter was like, "This is wrong. I'm just doing the wrong thing here." It's probably more like, "Whoa, this is too real for me. I got to get out of here." But anyway, fuck ISIS. The new Saudi king has entered with style, David. He kicked off his new reign by giving $32 billion to the people.
Yep.
Yeah. And it is distributed in a very specific way. Basically, people will be getting about 2 months' pay is how it works out. All state employees, soldiers, students, and pensioners, as well as generous grants to various professional associations and literary and sports clubs. These are all the people who are receiving money. I guess around 3 million of the nation's 5.5 million person workforce work for the government. And so there's a lot of money going to government employees here. But that's still the people, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so this is a very large sum of money that is just being thrown out to the people. Do you see this, without hearing an explanation from the new Saudi king, is this kind of like a, "Look, I'm nice. You should like me. Here's tons of money"? Or
yeah, I'm sure there's an attempt
else?
to ingratiate. There's an attempt to ingratiate. There's probably, this could be, they probably thought it would make headlines around the world, and it has. And this is also maybe to counteract some of the bad press that Saudi Arabia has gotten, mostly from independent media, because corporate media does not really talk about the absurdity of this American alliance with Saudi Arabia, a brutal regime, doesn't really get discussed much. So maybe it's to counteract that with some positive PR. And I can only assume that it's a combination of both.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. I guess it's a good move. How does this affect their economy?
Not much.
No. They are estimated to have about $700 billion in foreign reserves. And I don't think this is really going to put a dent in anything.
And it's not going to put a dent in the human rights abuses either, I don't think.
I really doubt it. But perhaps after getting 2 months' pay, some of these Saudi guys will be less eager to hit their wives. It'll make them happy for a little while, maybe.
Yeah, maybe so.
Oh, that sounds bad, but hey,
but it's the reality, and they're protected legally, which is the incredible thing.
Yes, indeed. So good for them. One guy posted a video of him showering his baby in rials, making it rain on his baby with his new his bonus.
Which is weird, because did they actually get these bonuses in cash, or did the guy just hear that he was getting a bonus and then he went out and got cash to do this?
Good question. I'm not really sure. It could have been cash. Could have been handed to him. I really don't know. But that's what's happening in Saudi Arabia. So we'll see what the new king does. He probably won't do much. I doubt it'll be too different from the previous king. I think they're interested in keeping things the same there, because the cash is coming in big time.
Yeah, keep it stable, keep the cash coming in, keep the friendliness with the United States, and just keep on raking it in.
That's it. And that's it for today.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.